Online stock brokerage DragonFi Securities recently marked a milestone, becoming the first SEC-accredited personal equity and retirement account, or PERA, administrator. Now, PERA is a tax-free voluntary retirement savings program for Filipinos.
To commemorate that feat, DragonFi co-founder Edgar Injap pledged a 10 million peso matching grant fund to help 2,000 young Filipinos get a head start on their retirement journey. To talk to us more about that, we have now DragonFi CEO Jon Carlo Lim. Jon, thank you so much for joining us.
Jon, thanks.
Hi, Salve. Hi, Jeron. Thanks for having me.
Well, we'd like to go straight into the fact that Injap, you know, this is the youngest, I don't know if youngest billionaire ba in the country?
That I don't know for a fact, but
Okay.
he is pretty young.
Yes,
Actually, we're of the same age, Injap and I. But, you know, I'm not a billionaire.
Come on, let's just, how old?
48.
Youngest billionaire in the country is giving away 10 million. I know this is just a drop in the bucket for Injap. 10 million so that he can create...
It's just for helping.
Yes,
No,
but
it
he
could be
can give
just
more.
10 million for
okay.
now. Okay.
Anyway, to have 2,000 new millionaires in the Philippines in
40 years.
40 years.
40 years.
The assumption there is 5% dividend yield and 3% capital appreciation over 40 years. So that 5,000, 10,000, if that person were to contribute to his PERA 10,000 pesos a year, that would translate to 1.3 million in 40 years. Yeah.
Is there going to be more?
What was his motivation? What is DragonFi's motivation?
Yeah.
In having this
It's
matching
like,
program?
I have too much money. I want to give it away.
I want to feel like that someday.
Yes.
Same here. Let's talk about Injap first, his motivation, right? So initially, the backstory here was we were supposed to create a matching program for Double Dragon employees, but Injap at the last minute changed his mind and said, "I'll just be donating 10 million pesos." To those of us who know Injap and work with him closely, Injap is somebody who's really very compassionate about the Philippines and the Filipino people. That's not something that's highlighted. We always highlight the fact that he's able to tap the capital markets. He has had 3 IPOs, but that's Injap through and through. And in Double Dragon,
So it's not just a PR thing, huh?
it's not just a PR thing. In Double Dragon and Mary Mart, for instance, he hires people from his own community, from Iloilo. It's different. This guy is built differently. He's the most modest billionaire, self-made billionaire that I've ever come across.
Like, I want to follow the thought. So in DD, the matching program was something similar to this. Like, all of the employees who wants to set up their own retirement account, he'll match it?
My understanding, because we had broad strokes at the onset, and my understanding was going to be less. So he actually doubled down on the 10 million. So it's that surprised me. That actually surprised the BSP and the SEC as well. When I mentioned this to the BSP, they were very, very happy. The reason being, just think about it, since 2016, since the implementation of the law, the PERA law, only 5,600 accounts have been created. Now, with 2,000, you increase the number of accounts by 35%. Plus, because we're essentially infusing 10 million with the matching 10 million from the contributors, you're talking about 20 million. That will increase the total contribution by 4%. So on day one. So that's how we wanted to kickstart, Injap wanted to kickstart the PERA process and speeding things along.
Aside from the matching program that
Yes.
DragonFi and Injap gave, how could DragonFi, as an SEC-accredited PERA administrator, be beneficial for people to participate in the PERA program?
All right.
What good could it do?
That's a great question. So let me elaborate first on our motivation, on DragonFi's motivation. So when we started DragonFi, 2 of my main objectives were, first, we wanted to address the pension gap. There's only 20% of senior citizens are covered by Social Security with an average payout of 5,000 pesos per month. And according to the BSP, the average Filipino only has 3.6 months worth of savings for retirement. We wanted to address that, and we felt that Social Security was not the answer. Pag-ibig MP2 was not the answer as well. Social Security, for instance, if you were to contribute the maximum amount of 1,750 pesos per month, for 40 straight years, from the time you're 22 years old to the time that you're 65 years old. At age 65, you will receive 30,400 pesos a month. So let's take those figures and extrapolate. So the average life expectancy of a Filipino is 72 years old. So if you do the math, that cash flow, the IRR, the internal rate of return, is only around 3.8%, barely beating inflation, right? It's within the BSP range of 2 to 4%. If you live until 75, that rises a little bit to 4.8%. So there was really a pension gap. We are not prepared as a nation for retirement. And the issue with Social Security is, as we've seen in pension funds all over the world, public pension funds all over the world. In the US, for instance, the US SSS is slated to be underfunded by 2030. So if the demographics were to change, what normally happens is, first, they would delay the age of retirement. They would increase the size of the contributions, which is already happening. So SSS was not the answer. But PERA, so I studied in the University of Chicago for my MBA, and I saw the power, the potency of their own retirement system. It's called the IRA. So the 401ks, Roth IRAs. So let's take that for example. That for me was the proof of execution that this can work. So in the US, there are 68 million individual retirement accounts, 401k, Roth IRAs, and the like. Out of that 68 million contributes around 10 to 13 trillion dollars to a 50 trillion US equity market. So you're talking about 20 to 26% of the value of the whole US market contributed by retail investors. We always complain that the PSE is illiquid, that the foreigners aren't back. But why don't we stimulate the domestic side of the equation? And I believe PERA is the answer. And I can elaborate on why that is so. PERA is actually very, very powerful. The only reason it didn't take off when they launched the program in 2016 was, first, it wasn't promoted well. Number one, there's very little awareness about PERA. Number two, they never had a seamless way of onboarding people to drive mass adoption. There wasn't a mobile app. Number three, the products were unexciting. Prior to DragonFi being accredited as the first SEC accredited PERA administrator, only banks and trust companies are able to offer PERA. And what were the products being offered? It's the same tired UITFs that we've seen that actually does not maximize the tax advantages that PERA actually infuses into the system.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things to unpack. But first, the meme. If I do my financial planning, they say, I can retire at age 99 and live comfortably for 11 minutes. Based on, right?
Yes.
Based on the numbers. I mean,
Based on the numbers.
Based on the numbers and the actuarial life actually of SSS here in the Philippines.
Correct.
And so it's true. I agree with you. There are a lot of things that PERA can do, but there are also a lot of challenges, John. Right?
Can you elaborate on the challenges for me?
Now I'm being interviewed.
I can address them one by one. Yeah.
Right. So, but first, let's talk about DragonFi before we address the challenges.
Sure.
I'm now being interviewed right now. DragonFi at the moment is one of the parang baby, right? Baby entrance into the online stock brokerage industry.
Not even 2 years old.
Not even 2 years old. And at the moment, what can its users expect from DragonFi that they cannot find in the traditional banks? You said the trust products are tired and old. Last 3 minutes of the show, can you explain that?
Oh, last 3 minutes.
No, of the segment. Just of the segment.
We have
Okay,
more.
sounds good. So DragonFi, you're correct. We are a startup, but we're the fastest growing investment app in the country. actually, the way we address things is to leverage technology to make investing as seamless as if you were watching a show on Netflix or listening to your favorite
On
music
ANC,
on Spotify.
on ANC.
On ANC, absolutely, absolutely on ANC. So as of the moment, we offer stocks and funds, but we intend to fully build out our ecosystem of wealth building products. And PERA is our way of leading the charge in terms of retirement planning. So our core competency actually is the way we leverage technology. And this is going to be a bias statement, but if you were to actually check out DragonFi, you would see that there's really validity to my assertion. In terms of the
Investing
robustness,
in 3 easy taps, something like that?
something like
so
that.
It's
Yep.
very simple.
Very
for
simple.
people. No nosebleed moments.
No nosebleed moment. It's the only app wherein you can open and fund your account in 15 minutes. We're the only ones approved for EKYC. You can InstaPay your funds directly, which is going to be very beneficial to the mass adoption of PERA. We have a lot of first-to-market features, such as basket trading, wherein you copy the portfolio of very experienced investors.
Including Injaps?
No. Unfortunately, no. I would love that as well, but I guess that's his intellectual property.
But then we have a lot more. I said a lot more to unpack, and let's talk about the details of the challenges for PERA. For now, we're taking a quick break. We continue our conversation with DragonFi's Jon Carlo Lim after a few minutes. Keep it here on ANC.
Welcome back. Still with us, DragonFi CEO Jon Carlo Lim. Before we talk about the challenges, Salve, John, I want to ask you, well, I have my 5,000 pesos right here, right now. Can I just give it to you and match it already?
Can I give you 1 million?
That's 1 million.
1 million.
Okay, we want to know the details. How can the DragonFi users or those who want to participate in the PERA program through DragonFi do this? Where do they go? How do they do it?
Yeah, sounds good. So right now we are integrating with the BSP Sparesis. So that's basically the BSP APIs. That allows the whole PERA system to function. So we envision our PERA product to launch around July of this year. So in July, it's going to be very seamless. So in order to drive mass adoption of PERA, it has to be accessible to every working Filipino. So our intention is to make it very simple. As I mentioned, you can open and fund your account in as little as 15 minutes. I think that's going to be a world of a difference from the way it has always, the way it has been done since 2016, wherein everything is paper, right? You fill out the paper, then you don't. Some people have even mentioned to me that some banks don't even provide, let's say, a screen by which they can check their investments for PERA.
It's all forms.
It's all forms.
Yeah.
So that alone, I feel, will drive mass adoption. Again, the 10 million peso grant, that's going to drive awareness. We also intend every retirement program, successful retirement program in the world, has worked because of the collaboration with the corporations. So we intend to approach the different corporations and their respective HRs to work with them so that this becomes accessible to every working Filipino and to make sure they're incentivized to participate.
Sorry, going back to the details. One person gets DragonFi, logs in, registers, deposits money.
Yep.
And it has to be, there's a cap because it's going to be limited to about 2,000 Filipinos, right?
For the 10 million matching
For the
grant.
10 million matching.
So that's going to be on a first-come, first-served basis, but I already have your place in line.
July what?
One and two. Number 1 and 2.
July what day is going?
Wait, I think I'm number 2. We can both be number 1. Come on.
Okay.
But John, so we're talking still about the benefits of this, and I understand that 2 things are very important.
Yep.
The tax deferred or tax-free portion, which actually increases the compounding return over time.
Correct. Yeah.
And number 2, PERA is you can carry this with you from one employment to another. It's not dependent on your vesting period in one corporation, and therefore very similar to the IRA, Roth IRA, 401k in the US.
Yes.
Explain to the viewers how important those 2 are.
So portability is definitely important,
Yes.
right? Like what we said like before, right? Social Security, in reality, you don't have any assets. You just have the implication of a future benefit.
Pension.
Pension, right? Future benefit that may or may not exist 40 years
Future
down.
defined benefit.
Future defined benefit, right? But in this case, it's really your asset, right? And you can take it anywhere with you. And what this does, actually, one of the main benefits of PERA is it does not have any estate taxes. So what does that do? So if imagine that you've been building a passive income portfolio comprised of dividend stocks and REITs, and let's say you have your fixed income securities that all are accruing value sans the taxes, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have the withholding tax.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the dividend tax. Then you have the 5% tax credit when you contribute.
That's a lot. If you pay
That's
it
a
every
lot.
time you make a transaction, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, there's something that, I've been poring over the PERA law, and there's actually something that's very interesting and very powerful that is very, very understated that people are not aware about. So in PERA, let's say you can structure your compensation package. For example, I'll make it concrete. You can structure your compensation package. Let's say you're making 100,000 pesos a month. Currently, you're making 100,000 pesos a month. That puts you in the 30% marginal tax bracket rate.
Yeah.
Let's say next year, your boss has already informs you that you'll be getting a raise. And by next year, you'll be getting 120,000.
35%.
120,000, okay. Instead of taking the gross amount of your salary and post-tax, you can actually tell your employer, hey, I want it to structure, put 16,666.6667 into PERA. You contributed. I won't contribute. The
As
corporate contributed.
employer contribution to your PERA account. And therefore, your tax bracket does not go up.
No, even better than that. So on that 200,000 peso contribution, you actually save 60,000 pesos worth of taxes. So the moment you put it in the Philippine stock market, so this is why I was saying that PERA is transformational in terms of how it can really broaden and deepen the capital markets. So imagine, the moment you put it in the stock market, you're ahead 30%. If you're in the 32% tax bracket, then it's ahead 32. If you're in the 35% tax bracket, you're ahead 35%. So imagine, let's say 200,000, you're in the 35% tax bracket, you save 70,000, and you buy a REIT. You buy a REIT at the current price of 39.60, you're actually buying it around 26 pesos. That is amazing. You're buying a REIT at 26 instead of 39.60. Then at the same time, you're receiving dividends tax-free.
Right.
That is generational wealth creation. That is different. This is very different. This
Very
is very
interesting.
powerful.
I'm very interested.
No,
Very
this is,
I mean, if you're talking about all these benefits, we're talking about it here. Why isn't it being taught to a lot more people, those who can really benefit from this?
Yeah, honestly, the reason I'm very familiar with this is because I spent like 7 years in the U.S. So I saw the power firsthand. So coming back,
That is where this is patterned after all.
that is where this is patterned after, although with one minor difference that they could have made it even more powerful. But anyway, as it
Because
stands,
there's a cap. You only have what? 400,000 per year?
400,000 for an
For
OFW, 200,000 for a
200,000.
Filipino
Small.
residing in the
Isn't
Isn't that
Philippines.
too
That's
small?
for a year.
I think that they've been
That's like
slowly.
1 month salary for you.
So you are in the 35% tax
not.
bracket range. So I mean, they're slowly, gradually increasing it. It used to be 100,000 per
Yeah.
annum. Now it's 200,000.
Yeah.
And after speaking with the BSP, I think they do plan to keep on raising it
Okay.
as
Now, quick, we go to the challenges. Why is there only a couple of banks? And first, DragonFi SEC accredited. I understand that there's Atram, BDO Unibank, BPI
Yep.
as PERA administrator. And I understand that that's because there's so many requirements and the costs are too high, and we only have 3 minutes left.
Oh, 3 minutes left. Okay, I'll be very, very quick. So all the other administrators you mentioned, they were not allowed to offer stocks. So that is a big differentiator. So they were only able to offer UITFs. in our case, we can offer stocks like what I was saying. It really works in tandem with dividend-paying stocks because the power is there. You get a tax savings on the capital appreciation tax saving, and then you get the dividend tax saving. It's really becomes very powerful. So why hasn't there been adoption? Initially, as I mentioned, it's just the banks and the trust companies that were marketing this, and they did not do it. They did not leverage technology to drive mass adoption. That in itself, that's a
So you're
simple
saying the
answer.
technological aspect will make it more cost effective for them because you don't have economies of scale. Your
Correct.
costs are too high because
Correct.
there are only a few people opening PERA accounts.
So let me walk you through. Let's say, for example, you were to open probably in one of the banks. I'm not going to name names, right? So obviously everything is going to be on paper. So how are they going to monitor whether that person has only contributed up to the maximum of 200,000 and not beyond 200,000? How are they going to monitor whether that person's ability to withdraw? But in our case, everything is done technologically, programmatically. So thereby you can save on the administration costs associated with PERA. That makes it different. And as I mentioned, the products before, it was just rubber stamping a current fund, a current UITF, and making it PERA, making it a PERA fund, but it does not really take advantage, the full advantage of what PERA can offer.
Very well said, but that ends our show. We hope to have more of you next time and talk about
maybe
a
before
lot.
July.
Before July, because
maybe
my
before
list
July.
of questions not
Not yet
even
done with my
touched.
questions
Yeah,
as well.
okay. So John, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm
Thanks.
sorry. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do this my first
It's
time, but
okay.
yeah.
That's fine.
Thanks. You're fine. That's your business outlook. I'm Ron Kerr.
And I'm Salve Duplito. Keep it here on ANC.